So you're a crowd animator at Pixar.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? Who is a crowd animator? What do they do?
It means it's kind of like the name speaks for itself. You're doing the crowds, like the background characters, not the main heroes, not the lead characters in the show. And you focus on animating them mostly.
Do I understand right? There are separate animators. They all have different titles. And some of them are responsible for the main characters, for instance, in the shot, some for the background characters.
Definitely, that's what separates regular animators and crowds and fix. Crowds and fix, they group them together, but it's actually two teams inside crowds and fix. That you have the fix team and then you have the crowds team. And usually you start from fix to crowds, and then you make your way into animation.
So it's kind of like a level system. And what does a fix animator do?
Fix is usually shots can bounce back with minor issues. It could be a, say, render issue where you just have to shift everything one frame, or it could be going over the lip sync and changing it a little bit, or most stuff come out in render. Like in a render, you realize that there's an intersection or some things are floating. You just push them up and down. It could be very simple like that, or it could be literally going over a dialogue and rebuilding mouth shapes. Depends on the task, but it's a variety of fixing work.
And did you start as a fixing animator before you were in crowds?
Yeah.
So how long were you a fix animator, and how long?
I think they do it project-based. So I started on Soul, and until Soul finished, I was on fix team. Now we're working on this new movie, Luca, and in Luca I'm on crowd. And when they were transferring me to Luca as crowds animator, they told me what happens next is kind of up to me. Like they didn't say, like they put it so gently. They basically said they're gonna move me based on my pace. Like if I don't feel ready to animate, I could be on crowds as long as I wish. But if I show good progress and if I'm eager to move forward, they would try to accommodate and see what they can do, and move me to become an animator. But I should also add, when you're on fixed team or crowd team, because we're all Indian animators, like we're not going through a different education to become a fix or crowds animator. So we all want to animate the hero shots. And they all give us some hero shots, like not maybe the climax of the movie, but some little shot of the hero character that you can animate. So I experienced that in Soul, and hopefully I'll have that in Luca too.
Oh, very cool. So there is a shot that you are responsible for, like as an animator, right?
Yeah, your title doesn't change just because you're animating that shot. You're still a fix animator, but for that specific shot, you get to animate it all yourself.
Did you work with like other animators to guide you through it?
I did so we have sketch artists who can give you draw over notes. They have amazing drawing skills. I met with that project sketch artist, and then he gave me some draw overs to help me out with the pose. Having it look more appealing, more organic. Other than that, I don't remember. It's been a long time. I don't know but even when fixing, there were times where, for example, the fix note would be like add a little bit like smear-ish, like nah kind of mouth. And when I did that, it just didn't fit with the eyebrows. And I was like struggling. I didn't know what to do. And one of the animators that I trust a lot, he was walking by my office, and then he said, like, why don't you just mirror it, the same pose over there? And I did, and that fixed everything. So, there's always like, especially when you're in the office, now we're shelter in place, that's a different story. But in the office, there's always people stopping by, asking how you're doing, if you need any help, and you always have questions, so you're asking them and they're helping. So it's a really great learning experience.
What can you tell us about the film, about Luca?
I can only tell as much as they already shared. It's a beautiful story, like a friendship of two boys in an Italian town. It's by the sea. It's very beautiful. and I can't wait to see the reaction of people when they release the teaser.
And do you? So there is no like trailer yet, right? No teaser or anything.
No, but hopefully a teaser would be, out at some point, of course. And I'm very excited to see how it turns out, how people react, and what people would think about it. I personally am very excited.
Do you have to look at a lot of references of like Italian people talk?
Yeah. There's a lot of research, a lot of reference, even like we even ask help from Italian animators, or they don't have to be animators, but like Italian people who are in Pixar or Disney. We have Zoom meetings, and then they're like helping out, finding what would be a good representative gesture in what situation. So there's a lot of research into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Do I understand right? So Pixar has an internship, right? So usually
Yeah.
people take an internship, and then from an internship they move to a fixing animator.
Yeah.
And
yeah, go ahead.
But then you skipped the internship and you went right into fixing.
Technically, I did. Yeah, I was applying for internship every single year, and I didn't see an animator job post. I don't remember ever seeing it. If they posted, I missed it. I don't know. So all my applications were for internship, and it didn't happen over a year and year. I kept, working really hard, and the last year, which was I think last summer, when it didn't happen, I heard from my mentors over there that sometimes if you keep working, if you have some nice industry experience, or like if you keep pushing yourself and showing progress, they do consider you as a fixed crowds animator, even though if you don't have internship. So I kept working, and that was like my fuel, my drive to not give up. And then it was a little bit of luck too. Like the timing worked perfectly. They needed people, and yeah, I guess you can call it in somewhat luck. I applied, and then it just happened so fast. Even Pixar animators get surprised. They ask me sometimes, and when I tell them I only had one interview, they're like, "What?" Yeah.
So it's usually multiple interviews?
Apparently, yeah, multiple. You go on site. In my case, it was online. It was just one interview, and then it went so well. Like it was, well, not bragging or anything, but usually all my interviews go well. Like even the jobs that I don't get, they go really well. I like meeting new people and talking to them. And this one, they were so open and supportive. They openly told me like, we can tell that your reel has a lot of room to progress and grow, but we also see a unique potential. So we want to have you and like help you grow whatever you need. Like that part that's missing in your reel, we want to give it to you. And they said we can teach that. That's easy. But authenticity or having genuine animation, that's not something you can teach. And they said you have that. I'm like, hey.
Do you feel like that's something you can learn? Like that, I guess, authenticity?
No, I think it's to me it's kind of like a flavor. Everybody has their own flavor, but I don't think you can learn it. You can try to imitate it. You can try to fake it, and I think if you work really, really hard, you'll get to good places. But yeah, to me, I don't know.
So I guess it's how they say that some artists have talent and others don't. So the ones who don't have talent can get to a certain skill level.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, you can move forward in anything as long as you keep practicing and not giving up. That's a true thing. It's not a cliche. It's like real life.
But then you mentioned that there is something that you can't learn. Is that?
I think saying can't is a little bit harsh, but I don't know. Animation is, of course, mostly moving the character, but even if they move beautifully, it's just going to be like a real human, which is going to be beautiful. But what about the emotions and the acting, the character? Like that doesn't necessarily comes from how beautifully they're moving. I think it comes from like putting your heart into it instead of trying to fake it. You actually, I mean, I try to do that. I try to become the character and then pour what I think how I think he would act like.
But then that's probably something you can train, right? To like actors, they train, their classes for actors and so on. I guess this is interesting for me as a subject of like how much is like talent and how much is the work you put into it.
I would say most of it is work.
Mm.
I think but I think this goes for music and everything else too. Like you can have the talent, but if you don't put any work, you're just going to be at that level forever. But if you keep working, no matter how talented you are, I think you'll only go forward as long as you keep working.
Do you feel, by the way, that thing exists? Have you seen like animators early in their careers and you felt like, oh wow, this person has something.
I did. It was more like they're amazing, great animators right now, and I checked their first reel, for example, and it's much better than my current reel. I'm thinking like, oh my God, this is like 10, 15 years ago, and they thought about this. That's amazing. There are people like that. And there were some people in school that I used to think like, oh my God, what she did or he did is something I could never think of. This is great. But for example, I didn't follow up with those people, but since I didn't hear from them, I'm thinking they maybe gave up in the industry. Maybe they went back home. It requires a lot of hard work. Talent is not enough by itself.
Before working at Pixar, you worked at Crystal Dynamics, right?
And we just released a game.
Hey. Oh, nice! Congrats! What game?
Marvel's Avengers.
Ah, nice. Yeah. So it just recently got released, right?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Are you celebrating opening of champagne?
Yeah. So they initially released a beta, and then what day was it? Thursday, I think. Thursday, they gave us the game collector's edition, and then they gave us like a small, I don't have it here, small sparkling wine and some little gifts.
And they did like the crew. Like the crew gifts.
Yeah. I love those little stuff. And they did a ritual toast from home, of course, and everybody got emotional. It was great.
Oh, that's awesome that they do that, even though you're not part of the company anymore, but they still invite you in.
Oh, I looked for before. It was Moose.
Yeah. I see.
Yeah. My husband also worked on the same game, so.
Oh, right.
He's still working there. Yeah.
Makes sense. All right. Well, so how would you say the transition was from games industry into feature animation?
Actually, it felt so smooth. And the reason is being a mocap animator does feel a little bit like fix animator. You get the animations pretty much there for you, and then you just make it look better, or if anything is like, intersecting, you fix that. So starting as a fix animator was wonderful for me. I would say it felt kind of the same in many ways. Crystal Dynamics works with mocap. Of course, Pixar doesn't, but just like you receive mocap data, in Pixar you receive already animated piece by an animator. So most animation is there, and then you're just fixing whatever needs to be fixed. If we're talking about fix, to me it's very similar. But if you're animating from scratch, of course you have much more control over it. You have a lot more decision-making, planning. In mocap, you don't have that much flexibility unless they change audio and then you do lip sync from scratch, or they change certain things and you have to keyframe every now and then, and all that would be up to you, your decision. It's your freedom. But mostly you're kind of stuck to the actor's acting choice. You can't make acting choice decisions. Where in film, because you're animating from scratch, a lot of it is up to you. They do have a lot, like they have, you know, storyboard artists. It comes with a layout. You can take a look at those and get a pretty good idea about what you're supposed to do. And if you don't feel creative, or if you can't think of a great unique idea, you can just follow that and you'd have a really good result. But some of the extremely talented experienced animators, they're going away from the layout and presenting, saying like, hey, I thought of this. And sometimes, actually most of the times, they get thumbs up. They're like, oh, this looks actually much better, let's do this.
I see. So it's kind of a conversation between a storyboard artist, I guess, and an animator. Is that how it works?
Not really. After it leaves the story department, I don't think we go back there. It's more a conversation between the animator and the director. Well, before you get the shot, you get a kickoff anyways. They tell you what they want to see, what they need to see, and you have an idea when you start. So it's not like you're surprising them so much. It's like there's always like a conversation going back and forth. You can even like talk to your lead and say like, hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? I heard some animators present both versions, saying like, hey, layouts, I followed the layouts and I did this, but I also thought this would be a cool idea. What do you think? And then they rough block it, and then they pick based on which one looks better.
And how does it feel, say, in games when you work on gameplay animation, you have to make it look good from all angles, right?
Yeah.
And then in feature animation, kind of animate to the camera.
Yeah.
Like how different is that?
Gameplay is so much different than cinematics animation in games, where cinematics is somewhat like feature film. You have a camera and you animate to camera, but in gameplay, like you said, you have to make sure it looks good in every angle. In feature film animation, also you animate it to camera, but Crowd is a little bit different because your same action, it could be used in a different angle depending on appeal. Like they think a lot of stuff, stuff I wouldn't think. Things like, is it best if they're walking from screen right to screen left or from screen left to screen right? They're studying this and making their decisions based on studies. So I'm thinking based on those kind of decisions or studies, they would decide where to put the Crowd's character and what angle would look best. Therefore, when I animate, I have to make sure they look good in every angle. I cannot favor one angle. So that does feel like gameplay in a way, but you're animating from scratch. There's no data that you can work with.
You lived in Turkey, but then you decided that this is what you want to do. How did that happen?
How did that happen? So of course I grew up with cartoons and I was a huge fan of 2D animation for the longest time. And then 3D kind of got to me with mostly Pixar movies. But I never thought for some reason that you can make a living out of it. Because I was in a way brainwashed that artists would starve, artists cannot make money. I thought it was always like a hobby, not a profession where you can actually make money. So it wasn't on my mind. I actually studied engineering, and then I was working on my master's degree, but throughout the end of my master's study, I realized I cannot work on my PhD. I realized I hate it. And I also experienced working in the industry as an environmental engineer, and I didn't like that either. So I felt like I was at a dead end. I didn't know what to do with my life. And I kind of wanted to quit, drop out from master's. And around that time, my sister reached out and she had this close friend. And that friend's brother was going to Academy of Art. And they supposedly, so word travels, adding a lot of lies to it. Supposedly they started making like $200,000 out of college. And I'm like, oh, that's really good money. That kind of covers the entire education, and then you make a good living out of it. And I looked at what I'm making as an engineer. I was like, I'd rather do that and make more money. You know, it makes much more sense and much happier job.
Did the money turned out to be true?
Nope.
No.
Nope. Nope. But money was not what's got me into it, to be honest. Money was a reason to convince my parents. So I had a talk with them. I said like, hey, this is like a good investment in a way, because it's gonna, you're gonna pay it off really quick. And they got somewhat convinced, but they told me I need to, it's like we made a pact. Like they said, you finish your master's degree, you go finish your thesis, you present it and such, and then we'll approve you going and getting your study, whatever. And that's how it worked out. I got my master's, and then I came to San Francisco, and I picked to go to the master program because it was shorter. And I thought time is money, and it has less classes. That's also less money. And then I finished it as soon as I can. And I consider myself lucky to get a job almost straight out of college.
Oh, very cool. And as doing a master's degree, you had to do a thesis, right? Which is a short film.
Yes.
I understand.
Uh-huh.
What was your thesis?
Oh, I actually joined a project with my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time. I bounced around a lot. I tried to do my own thing. And I realized it would be much easier if I just jumped onto some other project. And then there was this teacher in school. He was doing a short film. I joined his project. And then that project just didn't move on. It didn't progress at all. And the department heads were telling me, like, if it doesn't make progress until this time, you have to quit. And I quit that. And then I was like, what am I going to do? And then last minute, Mo said, like, why don't you join me? So I joined his project, which was entirely his, ideas, his story, his characters. He did everything. He modeled everything. He modded the rigs. And then we just did it together. It was a little bit of rushed work, not a little bit. It was super rushed. And can't say we're proud of it, to be honest. But with the given resources and time, I think we did a great job, only 2 people.
Yeah, especially the fact that you did everything, right?
Yeah.
Just 2 people.
He modeled everything. It was amazing. And he rigged it too. I mean, what? But yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's something that a lot of people don't realize too, that animation is just one part of the industry, right? There's also modeling and rigging and lighting and texturing.
Yeah, but the funny thing, even people in the industry don't know that. They see something visually weird, they're like, this is animation. No, just because something's moving funny doesn't mean it's animation, especially in games. It could be sim, it could be effects, it could be design. Animation is, in a way, a very small part of it, but then I'm biased, of course, I'm an animator, but to me, it's one of the most important parts, because if you don't have a good animation, you can have all the tools, all the resources, all the engines, it's just not going to look good.
Yeah, it's a good point. So everything builds on top of it.
Yeah.
Right. By the way, how do you enjoy playing the games that you created animations for?
It's interesting. I feel proud, but like a little bit shy. It's so weird. I'm like, oh my God, I worked on this. I get a little bit like, I'm just seeing the scenes. I mean, I have seen, of course, the scenes I worked on in game while I was working there, but seeing it in actual game, like we're also playing in TV, is kind of like a big screen. It feels so much better with the effects, because the version I saw didn't have the final lighting, didn't have the final texture. Now I finally see it final, and it feels so good.
You got your degree in animation, and so you got the job then pretty soon after that?
Yeah. So we were a little bit unlucky. I mean, not just us, the entire DreamWorks, when the PDI shut down, so many artists were all of a sudden unemployed. And
just to give a background, so PDI is part of is part of DreamWorks. So there's DreamWorks in LA, and then there was one in the Bay Area, which at that point I guess closed down.
Yeah, they closed down right when we were graduating, and all the job openings, they filled it. Of course, they have all that experience. They're not going to hire a fresh graduate when you have a great experienced animator there. And we struggled, like my entire class struggled to get jobs. It was really hard. But I guess it's also luck. I keep saying it's luck and hard work. I think just working by yourself at home might not help that much. I kept pushing my luck. I kept taking classes, and I met people there, and I worked so hard to show myself in the class. Like I tried to make sure I shine. Like if this person is putting this level work, I was like, okay, I have to do better. Like I always tried to push it. And people noticed. They would come and, you know, every time we take a break, they would come and compliment my work, saying like how much progress you made in a week, or like, oh, I love what you did with this piece. And when there was a job opening from one of the students, well, most of us, I mean, except for me, I guess, had jobs already, but we were trying to get into feature film. We didn't want to be in another job other than feature film. So one of the classmates said, we're hiring, are you interested? And then they hired me on a Friday, and I started Monday. They interviewed me, I think it was like after 6 p.m. They interviewed me around 6:30, and then I started next Monday.
Ah, that's quick.
Yeah. So I think so far, let me think. Yeah, all my hire, no, except for Anki. Anki took forever. Anki took months. But other than Anki, all of it took like a few days.
Yeah, I guess when they really need someone, they try to.
Yeah, that's totally it. Mm-hmm,
and but you're saying you really wanted to work in feature animation. So do you feel like you wanted to work in feature more than in games?
That was my idea when graduating. Mm-hmm. I was thinking like feature is the best. I was a little bit under the effect of my mentors and people I trust, because I remember specifically one of my teachers telling me, he said, I don't doubt you'll get a job. You will. But the question is, where would it be? That's what matters. Mm-hmm. And ever since, I felt like if it's feature film, it matters. And if it's not feature film, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't want it, you know. But after experiencing games, to me, it's like same pleasure, same perks, same benefits, same satisfaction.
So do you feel like it's an idea in the industry in general that games are kind of a consolation prize?
I think so. I think it's people's personal opinions, and I respect everybody. Some people might say like if you're like I met some people, some coworkers at Pixar who were slightly worried about like what's going to happen when their contract ends, and I told them like, you have so much more experience than I do. Any company would just hire you immediately. And they said, I'm not going to go for any company. I want feature film. And I was like, okay. To me, it's not like that. To me, it's about the people. The team matters so much. That to me, the team matters so much more than the name of the company. And then I care about the work itself. Mm-hmm. Like it's of course important the work to be satisfying, but even if you have the best, most interesting work, if you're working with a horrible team under horrible conditions, it doesn't matter. Yes, of course, if we're talking animation quality, feature film has its best. I mean, I can't argue, I can't deny they're doing animation from scratch, keyframe, and it looks amazing, the polish. But then again, it only makes sense because they're putting so much time on it, so much more time than the game animators get, and so much more support, as in like technical support. Like all the departments are feeding animators, and also they have more time and more bigger team, like much more animators we're working with. But in game, for example, in cinematics team, we were like 3 people at some point.
For the whole game?
I can't say whole game because people come and go. But when I was working in an office, we were only 3 people to work on cinematics animation, and 1 person was only doing camera, so it was 2 people. So
you're saying in games, the deadlines are much, I guess, shorter. You have shorter time to work on a shot. Can you give like not an estimate, but in a ballpark, like how many, say, frames a week do you have to do when you say we're in Crystal, and how much is it now?
Oh boy, I actually can't. It keeps changing.
Oh, okay.
It keeps changing. Like I think it depends on what they need and when. So for example, when I was in 2K, if it's like a small animation, small fix, especially if it's like one character, there's no intersection, there's no interactions like hands and arms and anything. It's just one person moving around. It's so much easier to clean up. And that would take me a few hours, not a day. But then there would be a shot with two characters, a lot of pinning, a lot of like wrestling and everything. There'd be a lot of cleanup. That would take maybe 2 days. Or you would think it took you 2 days and then it would bounce back and then you would have to work on another day because you would get notes on it.
I see.
So game was like that. When Crystal to me was much more flexible. Of course, they would ask you every day, how's the shot going? How's the shot going? But nobody ever said like, where is this? Why is it not done? It was more like, how's it going? Like, do you think you can finish it today? Or maybe like, how many days do you think it's going to take you? And then you tell them based on your experience. You say like, hey, I can. Look, what you do is like, you do a pass and then you show it to your lead. If he finals it, you're done in a day. If he gives you so much notes, you're not. So you do your best, and that takes you a day or two, depending on how complicated or how long the shot is. And that would be your first pass, and then you go back and forth, and I guess you submit it pretty soon. But my first shots, for example, took me so long. It was my first cinematics animation experience, and it took me a very long time, and I got a lot of notes to go back, fix, change. But in time, after getting to know how things work and what they are asking for, what they want, when I got to know that, I became faster. When it comes to timing, there was, for example, my first shot in this Crowds team on Luca, it took me forever to get it done, forever, maybe like 4 weeks. And then another shot, I did it in like 2 weeks. And it was much more complicated. It was 3 people. So I did one person shot in like 4 or 5 weeks, and then 3 people shot in a week, and then I did the notes in the next week. So your speed changes.
But why did it vary that much?
I was so every company uses a different software. I should also mention that like at Anki we were using Maya, at Suke they were using Motion Builder. It takes time to adapt, and then in Crystal they were using Maya. You would be surprised how fast one forgets. I was like, how do you keep things? I forgot everything. So I relearned Maya. And then in Pixar, they're using Presto. It's their own software to animate. And trying to learn that, trying to learn the style. And technically animating a full body character for the first time to make sure it looks good on every single angle. That took a long time for me. And but then once I got notes on why it's not working or what I need to fix, I applied those notes in the second shot, so I didn't have to waste time trying to discover things. I knew what I was supposed to do.
And what does learning the style mean?
It's hard to explain. It's more more something you would see, which hopefully everybody would see one day. But sometimes things can be a little bit different style. Sometimes some characters are different. Like I'm checking dailies, for example. Let's give an example of Incredibles. They would say something like, this is not how Violet walks, or this is not how Violet stands. I'm like, oh, so you need to study the character too, not just the style. That's also, you can call that also a style in a way, because every character has their own style of moving around. Like for example, when you look at Tangled, the little green lizardish guy, his motion is so much different than the girl. Like she's so smooth and nice, where he's a little bit more stop motiony. Like, so those are the stuff that I guess you learn in time.
And how does, so is this learning process just you trying to do it, and then the lead says that this is wrong, this is not on character? Or do you have like a process of preparing and to study different shots?
They have, most companies have like, wiki pages or like certain pages that you can study and find out about whatever they research before you. So you don't have to discover things from scratch. They just give it to you, give that information. And there's a lot of videos to watch, a lot of stuff to read. But sometimes that's not helpful enough. I had to watch a lot of videos, and I talked to my mentor, and I was asking him, like, explain to me the way an animator would understand. So he did like specific examples. He acted the way I'm supposed to animate, if that makes sense. And that helped a lot. Also watching all the reference videos and written in detail what they want and why they want it that way and such. So,
and those wiki pages and those explanations, how do they look like? Do they explain, oh, this character is kind of happy but fidgets a lot? Is it in that vein?
Yeah, there's a lot of like drawings, how like character sheets, how they look like, how their facial expressions are like. So I can't talk much about this movie, but even like TV shows, you see that one character almost never laughs, never smiles, because they have Asperger's syndrome or something, so we know their limitations and perks and try to go around that. Yeah.
I like that. That sounds like it's very similar to kind of acting, the kind of the kind of things that actors get from directors. It's kind of what you also get from guest director and your lead.
Yeah, it is. To me, animation is acting. It's definitely acting. That's all it is.
Do you feel like it helps for an animator to learn kind of actual acting, like the live action acting to animate?
I definitely do. I actually took acting classes, and I think it would help drastically to understand certain things, to get comfortable. Like even say you don't shoot reference, which I usually don't, but I do act it out, and I try to feel the feeling, or I use a mirror to watch what I do, because sometimes on camera my motions, my actions are a little bit more calculated, but mirror doesn't work like camera. In mirror I can really be myself and observe myself, and being able to do those actions naturally. Acting classes help, because some people are a little bit more shy. They don't know what to do with their hands or arms usually. Acting puts you in a how can I, like, for example, every class in the beginning we would do random like kindergarten exercises where you just shake or something, and it makes you feel silly and stupid, but then you open up, you relax, and then that's how you can act more true to self, rather than calculated, nervous, not knowing what you're doing,
Like, do you analyze live action films in terms of acting? Does
Sometimes
that help with animation?
Sometimes, yeah, it's hard. Like you can't do this. Say you're watching a scene and it's so beautiful, you love it, you frame through it, and then you realize this person did an eye dart, and then just because you add that eye dart to your shot, you're not going to get that feeling. It's like an action is a whole. It's about everything. It could be even the timing of a breathe or exhale. But I do try to. I don't think I framed through live action, but I did like rewind and rewatch, thinking, why am I not buying this acting, or why am I so touched by this acting?
And what can be the reasons?
Usually for me, it's sometimes they deliver the dialogue wrong. For example, the dialogue says, "How could you do this?" But the acting is, "How could you do this?" And I'm like, you don't give a thing about this. Like, you don't really care. You know what I mean? Like, I think voice acting is so much of it. But other than that, it's, I think it's eye dart, it's eyes and eyebrows, and having a thought beat before sentences, especially if there are pauses, is very important. Then you are selling the idea to the audience that this CG character that doesn't exist in real life is thinking before speaking, and that's what makes us alive. Like, say you have a robot, an AI, and they just speak with a robotic voice, and there's no thinking, and it's just like direct, blah, 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 blah. You don't believe it's alive, even though it's moving and you can touch it and it's in front of you. But what makes us truly alive is the thought process and this feeling that reflects in your facial expressions and how you deliver the lines. What I love most is the subtle or the secondary acting. An example would be like, I tell you, I'm so happy for you, but from my action, you can tell I'm not. I'm jealous and I'm not happy for you at all. So me, that's
trying to hide
trying to hide, but can't. Those kind of stuff to me feel really real. But everybody has a personal taste. Like, it's different from person to person.
Do you have favorite Pixar film, and do you have favorite shots that kind of sell acting in the best way?
Yeah, to me it's WALL-E, because that guy doesn't have a mouth. He has just two cameras as eyes and then some weird metal thing as eyebrows. Yet, to me, he has the most genuine acting and so unique character. It's all given, of course, there's a lot of like, screenwriting, the jokes, everything is written before, and that's fantastic. But there's small little stuff that the animators add. I really do think animators as actors, like, to me, that you have the script and the director tells you exactly what to do, but many actors can execute it in many different ways. So that's how it is with animation, I think. And yeah, WALL-E is my favorite Pixar animated movie. I think it's all time. Yeah, mostly one of my top three at least. And it's only because that character cannot speak. He's not organic, as in like not blood, flesh. It's a robot with feelings and thoughts and likes and dislikes and weird perks. That's the most amazing thing that one character can have, I think.
Right, so there are lots of limitations, right, when animating a character like that?
Yeah, of course. It's only, eyes and hands, maybe a little bit, eyebrows. Not even eyes, like so I guess eyebrows. And then they rarely did these extreme poses where the eyebrows kind of like left the body, kind of like 2D cartoon, only for a few frames and then it comes back. Timing, everything was so fantastic, especially the first half before we see the humans.
And can you explain for, I guess, non-animators that might be watching, what do you mean by timing? What does that entail?
Timing, for example, it's been a while since I watched that movie, so I don't want to like give wrong information or anything, but there were times that he's trying to hold hands with Eve, or was it Eva? And at the time, that robot is super shut down, so there's no hand to hold. Like her hands are stick to her sides. But WALL-E's been watching this movie over and over again, and it's probably the only movie he has where they hold hands, and so he wants to experience it. And they deliver this information to you without talking, just showing and acting. It's unbelievable. The way he just stares. He just stares at the TV. You can tell that he wants to do whatever they're doing. So he takes her to a sunset view where she's shut down. She doesn't see anything. And then he's trying to hold her hand. But instead of going like, okay, hold hands, this is to me linear, boring timing. He has this huge, thought process, getting a little bit shy, nervous. You can feel it with his acting. He's trying to like scoot slowly next to her. And again, instead of like looking, holding, he tries to like looking away and like trying to find the hand and then look again, like, am I at the right place? Yes, I'm at the right place. Okay, let's hold it now. And those little things, like how he struggled, you find it relatable. Like there were times, I'm sure everybody was shy towards their crush, didn't know how to act around them, but they wanted to be close or have some sort of contact. You read all of those by just beautiful acting. It's not too long to make you feel bored, and it's not too fast to feel calculated, like I'm going to hold hands. It takes its time to build up to it, and holds the hand at a perfect time and then reacts to it again very fast. And the texture is also very beautiful, and texture is how the beats are led to or given to the audience. Like it's kind of like the beats in a song. if you keep doing beats every like this is boring. You have to be like, let's say something happened, then something happened again, and then something happened maybe slowly, and then maybe something fast happened. So this becomes more interesting and unpredictable. So with that hand holding scene in Wall-E, the timing and the texture is so beautiful. There are like very slow actions and then very fast reaction. I don't know, it's like a beautiful dinner dish that has everything on.
And I like how you are kind of comparing animation to music. Do you feel?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very much like music. Like, for example, I animate when I'm playing something on the side, but if I'm trying to see the texture, I turn it off because I need to hear the actions, which is weird, I know, because actions don't have sound. It's you're animating silently. But I watch how she moves, and if it's always like din, 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 that's boring to me. I change it. I slow down some parts, move some parts to make it closer to the other, so it goes like boom, 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 or something, you know, whatever she's doing.
Do you ever hum to yourself? Like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Uh-huh. Like even when given feedback, I say like, this feels repetitive. Do you feel? I go like dum, dum, dum. Do you see? And then sometimes people are like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like the actions, it's like dum, dum. Like I can't act like down, up, reach, drink. Like this is kind of boring, and you know what's going to happen next. It's going to be another dump, 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 right? So I try to break that apart a little bit.
Makes sense. Yeah. And I also like how you're saying that animators are basically actors. Are there like famous, like how they're superstars among the actors? Are there superstars among animators?
To me, there are. I mean, they are my superstars. I don't know about other people, but of course, there are some animators that do a fantastic job. I don't know how they do it. I think it's a lot of practice. It's a lot of studying. Like I was talking to one of my mentors, and because to me, he's at a level where I don't know how to top that. I don't know how he's going to top that. Like I feel like he's reached the ceiling. And I told him, like, how do you get better, any better than this? How do you keep progressing? And he said, getting better at something is like digging a hole in the ground. And he said, like, as you dig, you keep getting deeper. But when you reach a certain depth, you cannot keep going down. You have to dig around. And he said that around would be other stuff that could help your animation. That could be gesture drawings. That could be, I don't know, caricature drawings and this and that, or like music, photography, something that would help you get deeper, because you can't go just straight, right? You need tools for that. If you're like manually doing it, you have to widen the hole. That made perfect sense to me. So most people are doing a lot of like hobbies to help with animation, and you'd be surprised, like a lot of stuff that might seem not related to 3D animation actually does help so much.
What kind of things?
To me, I didn't do much stuff, to be honest. I'm still digging. I'm not that deep. I didn't reach the part where I have to go wide. But to me, gesture drawing helped so much. At first, I was thinking like, how is this going to help me? I'll never draw. But it helped me with the posing character, line of action, and appeal, silhouette, and balance. Like I realized after the classes that most of my characters were unbalanced, because in Maya you can put them like this and they will not fall down. They're not real characters. They just stay without any balance or something, you know. You just learn all those.
Can you maybe explain? So the balance means how well the character stands, right? So as you're saying, if it's a practical puppet, then it will either stand or fall off. But because in 3D you can pose them anywhere you want to make sure that the weight is right and so on. Is that?
Yeah, because you're trying to sell the idea of that is a world somewhat similar to ours, and it has to somewhat follow physics rules. If you make the characters super unbalanced, where their feet are here but their body is over here or something, and not have them fall, unless there's like a huge wind or something, it's going to look like bad work. It's not like, it's like a magic or magician. You see the rope when they're flying or something. That's you're revealing your secret. It loses its magic. You got to make sure everything is hidden. We cheat a lot. It's all cheating. It's a lie. Those characters don't have lives. They don't have thoughts. They don't have emotions. We make people believe.
Yeah, that's a good, that's actually a good point. So you are in a way like a magician who makes people believe that something that's not alive is alive.
Yeah, yeah.
Even, I guess it's interesting because even if you're saying, say 2D animations, just drawings, right? One drawing after another, and then 3D, it's just, you know, a 3D
One
drawing.
pose after another.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But you're creating an illusion that it's something that is alive.
It's weirdly, it's easier to, how can I put it? Like in 2D, it has a magic touch where it looks good. Like everything in 2D to me looks good. Like you can have a character standing super still and just blinking, and I would still buy that he's alive. But when you do that in 3D, it looks super robotic. So in 3D, you have to be more careful about keeping it alive. And
I think that oh, sorry. I was wondering, why do you think that is? That in 3D, there's more alive you need to do.
I don't know, to be honest. I was thinking the other day, if we did flat shaders to 3D, I wonder if we can get away with it. We might. I really don't know. But I'm watching or frame throwing 2D animations. They're walking and maybe just the legs are moving. There's no torso animation. There's no overlap. There's no spine animation. Just maybe slight up and down, kind of like you would play with like a doll or something like this. You do that in 3D, it immediately looks horrible. I think it's because 3D with the lighting and like lately all the movies, they look so real. The light, texture, the environments, everything is so real. So it looks like a robot in real life. I think it's about like shading, lighting, and how real it looks.
I see. So I guess because it's more realistic, we expect more realistic movement
Out of
it.
That's what I'm thinking.
Sense. So then going back, I guess, to your first job. So what was it? You're saying it was a school friend, acquaintance who introduced you to that?
Yeah. It was a VR company. We did a VR short film. They did one before me and I think one or two after me. They never released it. That was my first job. Yeah.
How was that? How was working with VR?
Oh, I love VR. VR was amazing. That was the one and best good thing about that work experience.
Do you like playing VR games too?
I do, but I can't even give you an example. I think what I played was mostly like little demos, like a golf or like balloons. You know, it wasn't like a detailed game with story. But I love it. Like I already, like ever since I was a kid, I loved games and cartoons and such, and I loved the TV because of it, because that was the visual source giving all those to me. But in VR, it's like you're in the TV. It's like you're with them. It's not like you can interact with them properly, but you're still being able to be really close to something you animated and look at it in every angle is such an amazing thing. I loved it.
Right, it's definitely more immersive.
Yeah. Like the film we worked on, I don't think there's any, well, you might find some like shots online. If you check online, it looks like, okay, it's a short film. But when you look with VR, it's like, oh my God, this is so amazing. It looks so good.
And what game did you work on? So it was a company called Penrose. So what game?
Yeah, it wasn't a game. It was a short film.
Oh, sorry. It was a short film for VR.
Yeah.
What is it called?
Allumet.
How We Met.
No. Allumet. ALLUMETTE.
I see. And how was it? So how do you approach animating for VR? Do you animate in a 3D program and then you export it into a game engine?
Yeah, we use Maya, and then with Unreal Engine, we export it there and then watch it in VR. And as an animator, your approach is not very much different than game animation. You animate in 360 and make sure there's no intersections.
And then someone who's watching the film, they can walk around the character and look at the character from all angles? I see. And so what were some challenges So what are some challenges there? Like, how's it different from, I mean, you're saying it's from all angles.
Well, challenges, yeah, that's the whole angle thing was a huge challenge, especially like, for example, there was a part where some guy was coming down the stairs, but so you do animate 360, but you still have a desired angle. Like, we want people to watch at a certain angle, but they have the freedom to walk around. So you animate for that camera, but if it's for that camera, because this guy's behind this wall, say I'm the camera and there's a wall and this is the guy, so he's gonna like come here and then like climb the stairs. Normally you wouldn't animate him here. Why would you, right? But you have to put some animation because you can't make him pop there. He has to, like, just in case somebody crosses the bridge and looks from the other side. So yeah, add a keep alive on him so that he's alive and sitting, and then he gets up and then he starts climbing. So that's like so much more animation.
Right, so you can't cheat as easily.
You can't cheat at all, not one bit. Yeah.
And so after that VR work and that short film experience, it was a short film, right?
Short film.
And so after that, you went to Anki, and that's where we met. And so that was a robotics company, right?
Yeah.
So you animated a robot. So how was that? Because I imagine a lot of times when you were to tell people that you work at a robotics company, they would be confused. Like, you're an animator, how do you animate in a robotics company? So how was that process?
Like, to me, in a way, it was so cool, like being able to animate in Maya, this animation software, and then have that exported into an actual physical robot, and it makes the movements you made in a computer. That's mind-blowing for me. It's kind of like a dream come true for an animator, because that's actual coming alive. Like, it's not just CG on screen coming alive, but also like the robot moving around. And it was a great feeling experiencing it for the first time. It was mind-blowing. And it did have its limitations. Like, as you know, you and the tools team were constantly trying to make sure animators are having all the resources we need, or like the animation matches as much as possible, because it's really hard to get what you see on Maya 100% exactly on the actual robot. But sometimes you learn how to work with the limitations, not the limitations, but the inconsistencies, maybe I can say, like, for example, we would know that we need to lift his arm at least 50 degrees to see a 20 degrees moment in the actual robot or something. Like, we would know how he would physically react. It was not one-on-one. But after figuring that out, I think it became very easy, a little bit repetitive towards the end.
Right, and you were there for a while, right? Like 3 years.
Yeah.
So I guess animating the same character for so long does get repetitive.
It did get repetitive. Yeah, but Cosmo especially helped a lot of children with autism and other challenges, and those letters was, to me, more precious than the paycheck, because a job that feels repetitive and maybe sometimes even boring to you is changing life somewhere else, and then that gives you the drive to keep going.
Yeah, I guess it does make it very, very rewarding.
Yeah.
And just for everyone, I want to explain. So it was a small toy robot that animation team would animate in Maya, and we would, as Selen mentioned, then we would export it on the robot, and then say kids were to play with it, and so animations would trigger when the kid does this or other action. And from what I understand, a lot of kids with autism found it very helpful, because there's not much in a robot to get distracted by. There's just, it's much simplified, so it very helped like people with disabilities. And yeah, I agree. I thought that was very, very rewarding to see, and an interesting avenue to explore as well.
Yeah. And animating the eyes, which is the kind of almost the only thing we animated for a few years, I thought I was getting rusty animating the same thing over and over again. But I didn't know that it actually helped me a lot, because to me, like I said, everybody's different, but to me, eyes are the most important place in a human body or any creature to express emotions. and thoughts even sometimes. Like, this might sound crazy, but I have cats and I can tell they're angry or scared or jealous. You see it with their stares or the way they look away when they're guilty. It says so much. So practicing that for a few years, I think, helped me a lot with animation. But of course, I kept taking classes on the side to not get rusty and to keep animating, which resulted in this Pixar job, I guess, eventually.
Nice. So you took animation classes online while already having a job. Is that something you would recommend to people in general?
Yeah, I recommend not giving up. Like, I don't like the thought of saying like, oh, it will never happen to me. Like, why? What makes me so different than you? Why would it not happen to you? That's like giving up before even you started trying.
So would you say, so even when working at the Penrose, the VR company, Anki, the robotics company, your dream was still to work in feature animation, right?
Yeah.
And you're still trying to get in, and you were taking classes specifically to improve those types of skills. So do I understand right? So were you applying, like, so your dream job was at Pixar at that time? So were you applying there every, like, say for internships or for jobs, were you applying every year?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
so that
receiving
commitment.
rejection emails. Luckily we have great candidates. I'm like, wonderful.
It's like spitting in your well.
Yeah. But like, I hear this from even like there are animators who are like 10 times more talented than I am. And they tell me they were close to give up. I'm like, what, you? And they were like, yeah, I was going to give up. I think the key is not to give up. Like, everybody gets to a point where they want to stop trying. It's kind of easier sometimes. And it's okay to give up too. Like, I'm not saying everybody should definitely follow their dreams and get it. Like, dreams can change. Like, lately, actually, before getting in Pixar, my dreams had changed. I was more focused on family. You know, I'm like, oh, let's settle, let's have a family. That became a bigger goal for me. And that's okay. Like, I know friends who are good animators who gave up feature film dream, and it's not sad or pathetic or dramatic or anything. It's actually a good thing to know what makes you happier.
Yeah, good point.
But at the same time, like, if you think this is the only thing that's going to make you so happy or your life goal, the key is not to give up.
But that's also, like, I would guess that's also not something you can always control, right? Like, well, how much do you think is the luck factor in
luck plays a lot.
And because, so do I understand right? So Pixar, for example, and I'm sure it's the case for many other feature animation companies. So, but Pixar specifically takes like thousands of applications for an internship probably every year, right? And only a few people get selected. Are those numbers sound correct?
Yeah, it is correct. It's really low.
So your chances are pretty much like 1 in 1,000 or 1 in a few hundreds to get.
Yeah, that is true. But still, that shouldn't be a reason to be discouraged. That should just tell you how much harder you need to work. And like I mentioned, I don't know if I said it after we went live or before we were talking, but if you're just working at home by yourself, nobody's going to know how good you are. Imagine you're writing all the best tools, Daria, but then let's say you're not posting, you're not showing anybody, you're not getting feedback, you're not having people test it. You're just going to be a great tools engineer, but nobody's ever going to know that you exist. Like, it's important to find connections. And that doesn't mean that connection is going to hold your hand and get you the job. But that person can realize how great you are. And then maybe they can go and say like, hey, if we're looking for an animator, I know this person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you
work
work on?
Sorry.
No,
I was saying.
Go on.
Okay, I was trying to say, it's not like anybody's doing anyone a favor. It's just, it's same as like having a YouTube channel or starting a brand. If you just do it at home, nobody's going to know. You have to spread it a little bit.
And would you say you work specifically on getting those connections?
Well, to be honest, I'm not good at making connections at all. At least I wasn't good at school, let me say. Now I feel much more relaxed and comfortable, so I feel like I can talk to anybody. But yeah, I learned from people. Like there was this coworker of mine at Penrose, and she was like, I'm going to add this person because like, you know, they have this great job or great, you know, experience. They might help me one day. So I'm like, I never thought of it that way, but it's true. I can't say that's why I got the job, but if I didn't know anybody in the industry, I don't like, that's how I got my first job. Like if I didn't know that classmate, I don't think I'd get that job. And all the other jobs followed after that. So networking is important.
But I guess what you're saying is that you wouldn't like specifically calculated, like calculatingly, like be friends only with people who can pull you forward, but you just developed friendships naturally because you attended school, because you took those extra classes, because as you were saying, you tried to shine in those classes.
Yeah. Even if it's not friendship, I would want to, you know, you're also a teacher. Like, I think it would make a teacher happy to see your students progressing and so interested in what you're teaching. And I was so interested in what they're teaching, and I want to show that 100%. I did not pull back. So maybe they knew I wasn't the best animator out there, but they also knew how eager I was to learn and improve.
Mm-hmm. And the classes you took were with animators from the studios where you wanted to.
There are animators who work at Pixar who are giving animation classes, and they're doing online too. I recommend everybody skipping school and going there, or any other online school.
So you preferred your online classes to the classes that you took at school, would you say?
100%.
Yeah. Interesting. And that's so some examples of school, like our animation mentor, right? Or but you took that. Which school did you take the classes at?
I took 3 classes in animation collaborative with Pixar teachers, and I also took 1 class from Disney Animators, Anim Squad. Everybody's different. I can tell people what to do, but I personally prefer face-to-face communication, and my only option for that was Anim Collab at the time, and it was a great choice.
So online face-to-face, right?
Or what we had was face-to-face, but because of COVID, now they're offering online classes too.
Oh, I see. So it was on site when you...
It was on site. Yeah, my experience with Anim Squad wasn't so good, only because it was online. But that's my personal choice. You know, everybody's different. Most people prefer online over on site.
Well, I guess for a lot of people, it's not, if they don't live in, say, United States or like in either Bay Area or Los Angeles, that's a good option.
Of course.
And so after Anki, you went to 2K Games, right? And there you worked in WWE. Is that right?
Yeah.
So that's a wrestling game.
Yeah.
Are you big into wrestling?
No.
Did you have to kind of get at least a little bit interested in it when you started working there?
No, it did not change my interest one bit, but I did have to watch a lot of reference videos, which were the actual WWE scenes. We were trying to be authentic with certain characters' moves and their signature gestures and such.
What kind of characters?
To be honest, I can't even remember a specific example, but there's they have, like, each move has a name. I don't even remember the names, but there's certain characters who does that move. Because I'm so unfamiliar with it, I was questioning, like, hey, this looks weird, and then they send me videos like, she always does this. I'm like, oh, okay. You know,
like some kind of chair.
Yeah. I guess so. Or like holding their leg up. I'm like, why are you holding this long? But they just do.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not into wrestling myself, but it looks like WWE. That's the fake one, right? Or is that the real one?
They're all fake. I don't know.
Well, no, there are some that are actual wrestling.
Well, the thing is, even though if it's fake, like they jump and fall from such heights, I think they
Right,
would
still
get
dangerous.
hurt. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's still dangerous. But to me, it's like, I'm not interested in this. Um, though working on it was super fun. I think it was mostly the team, like I mentioned before. Like if I never went to 2K, if somebody asked me like, do you want to work in feature film or a wrestling game? I'd be like, no wrestling game. But after working there, and I'm like, I'd happily go back there in the future just because of the team, like the lead and the designer. They were amazing people.
What do you think makes a team good for you? Is that just the personality of the people?
To me, it's understanding and giving you the time you need and the resources you need, rather than being like a dictator on your top of your head saying like, why isn't this done? Like, this is not working, this is not working, this is not working. That's not helping anybody.
So giving the feedback.
Giving the feedback, helping ways to get the animator to, the animator is like a tool for a lead or a director. Use them. If you don't know how to use them, if you're getting bad results, it's because you don't know how to use them. It's not the tool is bad.
Yeah, that's a good point, because everyone who gets the job, they are a good animator, right? They wouldn't have gotten a job, if they weren't. So
Yeah,
yes, what you're saying makes sense to
just
me.
explain them on stuff, how you do it, show them. There's so many ways to teach someone something.
And then in wrestling, there's a lot of, I guess, physical shots, right? All the jumping and rolling and so on. Do you feel like you improved as an animator in those specific avenues, in like getting the physics right?
I did. Like it comes in mocap, right? So you already have the data. You don't have to keyframe from scratch, which is a huge help. But being able to process that data, like look in the graph editor, see how things move, helped me understand physicality, or like watch it in slow motion and frame through it, helped me a lot. Like I feel like every job I had kind of like prepared me for this job, slowly teaching me a different part of animation.
Actually, yeah, that's, from what you're saying, that's a good point. It's like the eyes, just focus on the eyes.
Yeah, and then I got the physicality, and then I got a little bit of acting and a clean up fix experience, and then I got to learn different softwares. I had a chance to adapt easily working with different softwares, and it's not just the animation, but also like the way they check the game or the movie. Every time we use a different engine. Right now, I can't even list it to you. It's so confusing. It's so many, but I learned how to adapt and learn new stuff.
Yes, I guess that's important technical knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
right? The more different things you use, the easier you can now learn a new one.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
now if say you choose a different company, then you can more easily learn the software there.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I liked how one time you made a comparison to me with Karate Kid, that it's like you learn specific like moves, like wash the car, that's like animating the eyes. Yeah.
Holy shit. And then he's like, why am I doing this for all these cars? And then all of a sudden he's like great with the moves.
Yeah.
So that's how it was for me, animating Cosmos specifically.
That's awesome. And I love the analogy.
Yeah, like right now I'm working on an animation. This person is doing all sorts of physical actions. And I didn't animate the face much. The face is just a smile face. And then just looking. And I didn't animate the eyes either. She looks like the actions are good. They're nicely animated, but she looks like such a robot, so dead. Kind of creepy too. And I started adding eye darts. And I didn't add random eye darts. I added how she would think based on those actions. Let's say the character is like reaching out to the phone and drinking water, right? If she's just doing this, it's creepy. So, but if you lead with the eyes, depending on the situation, if I look first and then grab it, the audience would know what she's going to do because I'm leading them. And then this comes in. And then I look there, and then this comes in. And then maybe when I'm drinking, I do a weird gesture, like looking up in the ceiling, which is weird, but just to add character, right? And then this little stuff where you're adding whatever she's going through as emotions and thoughts to her.
Yeah, that's very cool. And I realized that myself when I started working with animators on those robots. I I really saw how when like the team started adding, say, blinks and eye darts, like it really made like the thing that's not alive kind of spring to life. And just that made me realize like so many things, that for example, when we look at something else, like our eyes refocus, and so we need to blink. And before I never even thought of that, but that really makes something look less robotic.
And if you change that timing a little bit, it just becomes more robotic or less robotic. Like if you say blink and then eye dart and turn, it's so planned and so calculated. But if you blend it in, then it becomes like, oh, so organic, you know. It's like it happened naturally. It's not like blink, look, you know.
Right. So you think of how all the different actions for all the different parts work together.
Yeah. And it's not like I plan all this and then I animate and then all of a sudden it looks amazing. It's more like I add stuff and then I play it and I'm like, this looks like even her blinking feels forced. And I'm trying to like maybe turn it more into like half blink. It's not like, you know, or I change the timing a little bit and blend it with the action. And all of a sudden it looks so much more organic, like as if she's blinking naturally. Like even she didn't realize she was blinking.
Is it easy for you to tell when you're working like that? Is it easy for you to tell that, oh, this doesn't look quite right, I need to fix it? Or does it
depends? Sometimes I think it's easy to tell it doesn't look right, but it's not easy to tell why. That takes time. I keep watching and watching and watching. I'm like, I can't tell why this doesn't look good to me. Sometimes taking a long break helps. Next day I watch, I'm like, oh, this is why. Or sometimes jumping into another shot and going back to that other one, and you realize all the weird stuff you did.
So it's like looking with fresh eyes.
Yeah, you become blind to all your mistakes.
I see. So you kind of don't notice them because you've been looking at the same shot for a long time. I see. Okay, but then, so you were at 2K doing the wrestling game, and so then your next job was at Crystal Dynamics. Right? And there you were working on the Avengers?
Yes, Marvel's Avengers game.
Nice. And so how was the work there? How was it different, I guess, from 2K and from the jobs before that?
Main difference was gameplay to cinematics, where you had the camera. But the thing is, once you start,
so you were in the cinematics team, right?
So
I was you were just working on like the pre-rendered, the shots that will be rendered.
Yeah, definitely. It's the thing is, I still I have hard time animating to camera. Of course, I favor my poses towards the camera, but I rarely cheat. Like I don't usually do something that looks horrible in another angle, because I do get notes. I got notes all the time, like rotate this character, and then all of a sudden everything looks horrible, or camera changes. So I think mainly because my first job was VR, we did 360, and I experienced the game 360. And in crowds now, I'm trying to make sure it's somewhat okay in 360. I think it's going to be my habit to make it look good in many angles. That's good and bad at the same time. It's bad because you'll never reach those awesome animators' fantastic work, that they cheat a lot. But at the same time, if something changes, you'll always be safe.
Yeah, makes sense. What characters were you working on? What characters did you work with? So
it's in this new movie or in the Marvel's Avengers?
In the Marvel's Avengers.
Marvel's Avengers, the story is mainly around this Pakistani girl. Her name is Kamala.
So it's no one from the actual movies, right? They have their like the new character.
I believe she doesn't have her movie, but she is not a made-up character by Crystal. All the characters, even the reporter in the movie, in the game, are from the comics. From the old comics. They all come with a background, with a story, and they made it authentic as much as possible. So I animated Kamala, I animated Iron Man, I animated Bruce a little, what's that lady? Scarlett Johansson played her. Black Widow.
Black Widow.
Yeah. Who else? I did a little bit of Thor. That's it. And I did. Sorry.
No, I was wondering if you like researched how they both move as actors, or
I
how they look in
didn't,
comic books?
because we were mainly focusing on comic books. Many actors can play a superhero, but to me, like they're trying to take whatever comics had, right? So instead of looking at the actor, I'd rather go look at the comics because that's the source of it.
Were you into the comic books and the Marvel comic books before that?
Not
No?
really. People are gonna hate me.
No, that's fine.
Not really, but I really like this character. She was so nice, naive, young, and it was nice animating her, the little shy character, adding some stuff from myself, some stuff that didn't come from mocap. Little stuff, but like I added some like look downs, she's shy before looking at the big heroes, instead of like looking in their face like this.
Right, so adding her personality.
Yeah, adding a little bit more shyness for appeal purposes. We all like shy people, they're cute.
Makes sense. And so after Crystal, that's when you got the Pixar job, right?
Yeah, I kind of got my jobs during, actually. I got the Crystal while I was working at WWE. It's easier to get a job when you already have a job.
Then you're more wanted, I guess.
I think
right?
so, yeah. And I applied for Pixar when I was working at Crystal, and then they reach out, and that's like, I didn't take much breaks. I didn't have a chance to take breaks, but yeah, no complaints.
Was it a difficult decision for you to leave Crystal Dynamics and go to Pixar?
It was my dream. Like I wouldn't be able to say no to Pixar. So in that sense, it wasn't like, should I go? It wasn't like that. But leaving Crystal was very difficult.
Because you liked the job and the team.
Yeah, I loved it. It was the best company. I mean, of course, Pixar is also best, I'd say, but I didn't have much chance to physically experience Pixar environment and Pixar life.
Because of COVID.
Yeah, almost as soon as I got hired, I started working from home, and people are amazing. I can only talk about the people. But with Crystal, I also experienced some perks, which is little stuff that you can get yourself to. But the fact that they're giving it to you is amazing. Like, we had amazing food, best food I've ever had. We had so much snacks, drinks, parties. Our parties were amazing. Like, I didn't have a chance to experience Pixar parties yet. I don't know if I'll ever experience them. But I remember around October, was it? Or November, they brought snow so that we could enjoy playing with snow with trucks. And I'm like,
actual snow?
Yeah, I think it was more like
melt?
It was melting. It became like a slushy, but we still played with it. People did like small snowmen, and then they were like did like snowball fight, and that was the day that I got an offer, and it kind of broke my heart. I'm like, they're doing all this for us, and I'm leaving them, but what can you do?
Yeah, well, makes sense. And so now, so you always love so you mentioned that now your favorite movie is WALL-E. Has it been since it came out? Like, what, like you were already, I guess, in your 20s when the movie came out.
Actually, when I watched it, yeah, it was 20s, but like late 20s when I watched it for the first time. I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it as a DVD later. But recently, what somewhat topped that to me is Sony's Spider-Man Into the Verse. I love that movie, every single part of it, so much.
What about it?
It's so appealing. Like pause at any frame, facial expressions, hand poses, everything is so appealing, so beautiful. I don't know. I couldn't get over it. Like, especially the character. Was he Miles, the kid? Like, his character was someone I wanted to adopt so badly. Like, he was so cute, so sweet. Even when he's shy, that his father says "I love you" in front of his friends, and he doesn't want to say it back, but he's so cute. He's not this little annoying kid, you know. He's like, Dad, you know, like putting his head up in the car. And it's like, I can't take this anywhere. But I don't know. It was just, to me, it was appeal from beginning to ending.
Is that the kind of acting you were talking about, where you're trying not to show your emotions, I guess?
Yeah, there were parts like that. There were parts where he was singing the song, and then I guess he didn't find it manly to sing a song like that, so he was like kind of shy about it. Those were very beautiful. I didn't. It was of course a little bit comedic because it's like, you know, you laugh a lot. It wasn't like a serious sad movie, and when it's comedic, sometimes performance can get a little bit over the top. But to me, it was perfect. It wasn't too much. It wasn't too little. But mostly, I think I loved it because they made all the characters likable. Like, none of them annoyed me. Sometimes I find some characters annoying.
But do you feel that's because of writing, or because of the way they're animated, or is that all together?
I think it's all together. Like, there's this character, and maybe I should say, but sometimes there are certain characters that I just can't stand them. The way they talk, the way they act, it feels so fake and so annoying. And there are people like that. So I'm not saying they should not exist in animated movies, because we have them in real life. Why not have it in movies? But I don't like them. But this movie, everybody was likable to me, even the villains. They had some sort of appeal.
Huh. That makes sense, I guess. For a villain, to sell a villain, you need to make them appealing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So would you say that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is your favorite feature animation film from at least the recent one?
Yes. Yeah.
And would you say that the style of animation at Sony, like how different is the style of animation at Sony from other companies?
I don't think Sony has their one single style that they have in every single movie. Like Spider Into the Verse felt like it's a movie from a random different studio. It was so different in every way. Like if you noticed, it looked like every frame looked like comic book drawing, because they had like, you know, the black line on the nose, or like, you know, black lines around the eyes. It felt like hand drawn. I don't know how they did that with the texture and such, but
right, but that's rendering related, right?
I guess, but I believe they animated those too. Like,
okay.
I believe, I don't know, I'm just assuming because they were moving. Because like, let's say here, it's like here, the line, and then he moves like this, and then it moves here. Like, and in the center, there's no line. Like if it was coming with the texture, you'd expect to see that line no matter where they turn, right? But it wasn't like that. It was like just like 2D. In the center, it would only have like around here. It was just so beautiful. And it was a little bit stop motion-y. It didn't feel super smooth and organic. And to me, acting, like compared to Hotel Transylvania, it didn't feel like that either. Hotel Transylvania is like, hit a pose, act so crazy, and then hit another pose real fast. Spider-Man wasn't like that. It was so different. So I think it's hard to say Sony style for me.
Do you feel like other animation companies have distinct styles?
People say so I believe so. But to me, it's...
But not, you don't think so?
I don't know. I think style is something that changes. It's kind of like seasons, I guess. It's hard to have one style and make every movie in that style. I think people are exploring different stuff, and we like...
Wouldn't you say, for instance, that blue sky animation is like much more exaggerated, for instance, rather than Pixar animation, which is much more kind of toned down?
Yeah, overall, of course, there's a little bit of that kind of distinction. But then when you look at Inside Out, inside her head characters are so much more cartoony than the actual human characters. So I think there's a little bit of exploring back and forth in different studios.